Hello everyone! Welcome back to Psypris' Asylum, Embrace Insanity. In the previous episode, we went over what cosplay was, and this time we'll be covering how to cosplay. Now, it might seem a bit intimidating to jump in feet first. A simple Google of the word cosplay and you're bound to find a surplus of cosplayers, various community forums, and articles on the dramas in the community. So instead, I want to give a simple sort of introduction for those who are just starting out and want to know how to essentially break in. First, arguably speaking, a costume is required in order to cosplay. Otherwise, I think most would agree that it would just be role-playing. There are a few types of cosplay that I'll be discussing: closet cosplay, fabricating your own cosplay, and commissioning a cosplay. Closet cosplay is creativity at its finest. The name derives from the concept of digging through your own closet and making an outfit that resembles or provokes the idea of a certain character. Obviously, these costumes tend to be a bit more simple in design, and you are working with pre-made clothing. Your best successes for closet cosplay will be found at thrift stores, Halloween stores, and craft stores. The idea is to find pre-made items that match your design. The Get the Look posts might come to mind if you've ever been touring Tumblr and see an ensemble that is quote-unquote inspired by a character. Usually the color scheme is the same to invoke the feeling or idea of a character without being accurate to the actual costume itself. You may also need to visit Halloween stores for accessories, such as capes, canes, handcuffs, and so forth, items that aren't quite normal but already exist for you to purchase. And finally, a trip to a local craft store will help with small details to make your character recognizable. Felt and craft foam are often used in this manner. If you're not confident in patterning an outfit yourself, but you want to be a bit daring, I recommend finding a blog or two to follow that deals with recycling or upcycling clothing. I personally follow Refashionista, that is refashionista.net, because she's super entertaining and also gives great ideas for how to rehem and rework pre-existing clothing to fit your specific needs. Next is fabricating your own costume. This is certainly a lot of work, but totally worth it in the end. Keep in mind that everyone has a different starting skill level, and you should never be so bogged down that making your costume becomes a chore. There will always be room for improvement. Just have fun. Don't worry so much about making your seams perfect. Really just try to focus on bringing the character to life. The video game or the cartoon, it's 2D or maybe 3D if it's CG, but you will bring it to life with your personality embedded into it. Cosplay is so much more than just sewing, and a lot of people focus on the sewing, and that is perfectly fine. Obviously, it's great to be proud of a skill, but don't let that bog you down. Don't let that get you down. Don't let that discourage you if you are not a good sewer. I actually really kind of suck at sewing. I am pretty much self-taught, and mostly I just kind of learn as I go. I look up YouTube videos, I try to follow tutorials, and it's trial by error. You know, you make one, and then 3 years down the line, you look back at it, and you're kind of embarrassed that, oh my gosh, I walked out in public in that. But you can tell when you think that it's proof that you've grown. But I digress. I know I will talk more on this issue in future episodes because I feel like this is a big part of cosplay. And so this is just kind of the starter episode, so we will continue on. Now, I could probably spend the entire series discussing how to make your own costume. So instead, let me point you to a great website that has tutorials on just about everything you will ever need. It's simply cosplaytutorial.com. And it lists various tutorials online in a simple-to-use, organized list. This website will definitely help you get started and at least help narrow down what your questions are so you can search for other tutorials if you can't find what you're looking for on that site. Now would also be a great time to follow some of the more popular cosplayers, as they often have progress pictures of what they did that often can be used as tutorials in and of themselves. Sewing is pretty straightforward as far as the techniques. But for using worbla, wonderflex, fossshape, and other mediums, I recommend Svetlana's website, kamuicosplay.com, where she actually sells very helpful tutorial books that explains what she does in more detail. She does have free tutorials as well, but I always encourage supporting the community. And I actually own all of the books so far. I think she did come out with one talking about craft foam that I have not yet purchased. But they're very detailed and they explain things very easily. So if you're interested in getting into other mediums, that is definitely a great place to start. So moving on before I drag this episode down with an essay full of recommended sites, we come to commissions. There used to be some heat given towards those who commission, but honestly, what makes cosplay so amazing is sharing the love you have for the character and the series, not sort of what seam you used or even if you made your own outfit. However, proper etiquette dictates that you speak up and make sure the person who made the costume gets proper credit. This is not only the respectful thing to do, but it's also helpful as many cosplay commissioners make it their full-time job to fabricate costumes, and getting recommendations and referrals will help their business. The thing to consider with commissions is the age-old saying, quality, fast, cheap. You can only have two. Time and talent cost money. You will find many sellers on eBay that sell pre-made costumes for a reasonable cost. Note that these will not be tailored to your exact measurements and are made in bulk, much like the costumes you might see from Party City. So the fabrics are also going to be that, let's be honest, cheap costuming material. If you go to a single-person costume maker, they will quickly book up months in advance during con season, so you'll need to plan ahead of time to ensure yours will be ready. Also, always be on the lookout for scammers who steal pictures from actual cosplayers and pretend that they are a product that they sell. The sad truth is that it is quite common, and having an established website is not enough to prove that they are a legit seller. As with any major purchase, research a seller and read reviews to determine if they are reliable. Make sure that they are quick to communicate with you, and usually don't pay the full price up front unless the cost is low or the product is simple. You will almost always be required to pay the cost of materials up front, as the commissioner will need to make these purchases before beginning. Renegade Revolution made a wonderful post full of tips on how to go about commissioning your costume, and a link will be provided in the description section because it's a little long for me to say. Anyway, I hope I gave you a good start when determining how you will go about obtaining your cosplay. Obviously, I could speak at length on any of these, but I feel that would, again, just kind of bog down the podcast. In the future podcasts, I'm going to get into more of the specific topics that I feel should be communicated and expressed through the community, so I do hope that you stick around.